Hi, my name's Vince from Mr. Telephone, and today I'm going to talk about a network switch. Now, you would use a network switch when you run out of ports on your router. They're really straightforward, they're very cheap, and they work an absolute treat. Now, this is a Virgin Media Super Hub, and most people would use it wirelessly. So, for example, this is used wirelessly for my iPod and Huddle, etc., you know, for your tablets and stuff. But mostly a wired connection is always best. So for my PC I've got a wired connection, for my smart TV I've got a wired connection, for this little Roku box over here, which is like a TV streaming, so you can get things like Netflix and Now TV. They're good to use if you haven't got a smart TV, then that's also a wired connection. You can use it wirelessly, but it's best, I think, to always be wired. If you had a home security system, that would be wired. If you want to use your Xbox, PlayStation, most people again would prefer a wired connection. So on the back of this router, and in fact most routers, it doesn't matter, this also applies to BT if you have ADSL. This one here, this setup is a cable broadband, but if you have ADSL, exactly the same thing happens, because with these switches, they're all to do with the Ethernet. So we're not interested in what line comes into your house, whether it's cable or broadband. It's all to do with cable or ADSL, it's all to do with the Ethernet. So to do with the networking. So if we have a look here, this particular router has 4 ports. You will find that most of the routers that you get from your service providers will be 4 ports. Now, let's say, for example, if I got myself another smart TV and I wanted to plug it in, it's full. If my son had a PlayStation that he wanted to plug in, again, it's full. So what do? Nice and straightforward. Get yourself a switch. This switch was about £20 from PC World. This is a fast Ethernet switch, so it does 10 base and 100 base. You can get 1000 base ones, which are gigabit ones. They're about they're about £28. You will get them cheaper online. So this particular one here is a 5-port. You can get an 8-port, 16-port, 24-port, 48-port, but mostly for your house you're going to need a 5-port or an 8-port. So yeah, this is a 5-port one, 20 quid. If I wanted the gigabit one, it'd be about 28 quid. If I want an 8-port one, it would roughly be about £30. Again, they're all relatively cheap. You will get them cheaper online. Now, some people worry about, oh, what cable do I use? You know, which port do I put it in? Well, you know, this one here, this is auto uplink, so it doesn't matter whether you use a crossover or a straight cable. It's auto switching and auto sensing, so it doesn't matter which one you plug your feed from your router into here, it doesn't actually matter. So for example, a very quick example now, so it's full here and I want to plug in another cable. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to unplug one of the cables, because you're going to have to put a new cable from the router over to the switch. So get your cable here. In this instance I'm using Cat 6, but Cat 5e is absolutely fine. So you plug it into a spare port there, or not a spare port, the one that you've unplugged, and then into the back here. So now that's it. My switch is now live from the router, and then this frees up 4 more ports, Ethernet ports. So the one that you unplugged to allow you to plug into the switch, now that has to go back into the switch over here. And then you can plug in extra points. So this is one going off to a laptop. This is one going off to another laptop in another room. So basically, there we go. So you now see that I've now got 3 more pieces of equipment plugged in. Now, because of the cable that feeds from the switch to the router, you have lost a port. So the 4-port router now becomes a 3-port router, and it frees up 4 ports over here. So basically, by plugging in a 5-port switch into a 4-port router, you will be able to plug in 7 pieces of equipment. So that's 3 into the router and then 4 into the switch. If you were to get an 8-port switch, you would be able to plug 10 pieces of equipment, because you would have 3 in the router. The last port in the router is the connection to the switch, and then it would have 7 here. So that would be 10 pieces of equipment. So in a household nowadays, 10 would be more than fine. And that's it, really straightforward. You just plug it in and away you go. Turn it on, turn it off, turn your router on and off, and then it will just all do the clever bits itself. And you won't notice a drop in speeds. Now, in this instance, this is just a fast Ethernet one. I didn't get a gigabit one. The Super Hub is actually gigabit enabled. These ports here are gigabit, and my computer's gigabit enabled. So basically, one of these cables is going off to my computer so that's all under gigabit. But when it comes to the rest of the house, it's just all fast Ethernet, so that's 100 base TX. So I didn't need to get a gigabit switch. But let's say now, even if your router wasn't a gigabit, if it was just a fast Ethernet router, that's 10 or 100, so 100 megabits per second, then you could still benefit from a gigabit switch. Because, for example, if you maybe had a NAS unit, that's a network attached storage, and that was gigabit, and your computer was gigabit, then what you could do is you could attach your NAS and your computer excuse me, to the gigabit switch, and at least then they're going to be transferring 10 times quicker than they would do if they were in the 4-port switch on your router, if your router wasn't gigabit enabled. So you can actually quicken up your network, the LAN side of it, by getting a gigabit switch. So that's just a very quick video about how to increase the ports on your router for a wired network. Really straightforward, it's all plug and play, there's no programming needed, just for the basic use. Okay, thanks very much. If you want any network products or telephone products, please check out my eBay shop. That's mrtelephone.co.uk. Thanks very much. Bye now.